Hope means, to me, optimism in action. I'm a total proponent of finding ways to collaborate through thick and thin with others that are not like ourselves. But what I'm struck by is nothing's wasted. And all of that bears fruit now in the work that I'm doing.
Christy Davis, welcome. Thank you for accepting the invitation. I will start with a short introduction because I have some questions about it. Director for Transformational Business Network Alliance with Belmont University. I see on your LinkedIn profile the following words: hope, collaboration, social innovation, social impact. These are NGO keywords. How do those keywords fit in the business environment?
That is such an interesting question, because I think that these are very important words for all sectors, not just NGO or the social sector, but actually for the public sector and for the private sector as well. Hope means, to me, optimism in action. Right? So whether I'm a business leader seeking to make to ensure that my business is successful, or if I'm an NGO leader seeking to facilitate change in the lives of people that I serve, or whether I'm a public servant, looking at how what I do as a government official or as a civil servant provides us an enabling environment for and a safe community for the work that we do. So I think social impact, social innovation, at the end of the day, people are involved with everything. People are involved in a business, people buy products, people create products, people need to work together, people serve the people through government, people serve others through not-for-profits. So for me, there's not a distinction necessarily of sectors with those terms. I think we all want to find creative ways to tackle problems and create a more wonderful place and a safer place and a positive place for all of us to live and thrive together.
Amazing. How do you think leaders should change to better solve today's tough problems and to make everyone's lives better?
How should leaders change? I think, of course, this is a whole podcast all on its own, but I would say the first thing that comes to mind is that we start with the end in mind. I think the American author Stephen Covey used to say that you start with the end in mind. And if you're starting with the end in mind, then that means everyone that's involved to get from where we are to where we want to be needs to understand where we're going, what's the objective, whether it's a business objective or a social objective or a policy objective, so that I can understand if I'm the employee and I'm here, that I have a sense of, okay, the reason I'm being asked to do this work, and especially if it's work that's hard or challenging or not intuitive, or I don't understand the big picture. If I don't understand the big picture, what's in it for me? What's the incentive? Why is my work, my piece of the project meaningful? But if I understand the bigger picture and where I'm going, what's the objective, then I think I would be much more inclined to say, okay, I may not like this piece, or this is hard, or I don't fully understand, but I know that I'm part of a bigger plan that's achieving that goal over there. So I think a leader needs to make sure that the people that he or she are leading understand the larger context of the work that's being done, especially if it's change. If we are here and we need to go there, and that's a very different place from where we are.
That's tough.
That's really tough. It means I better make sure that I'm encouraging my people, whoever those people are, but that they also understand why. Why is it important that we all come together to bring about this change? So that's the first thing that comes to mind when I think about challenging. Basically, we're talking change management leaders that need to move people, so then you think of communication and all those other, very logical leadership attributes. But I think we still, even though we know that communicating with our team and helping them understand the bigger picture is important, I think we get in a hurry and we overlook some of those obvious things sometimes. Yeah.
So in a word, clarity, and sharing that clarity with your people.
That's a really good word.
I would ask then the following question, because in the business environment, sometimes the corporate way of thinking is people are not that important. People are numbers on an Excel sheet. They either follow the company policy or they fall behind. How should we find time, or where do you think there's a disconnect between that mentality and the challenge that you just shared to involve the people, to considering as collaborators, to entrust them with your vision and to talk to them? Are they people or numbers only?
So the two words that come to mind as you're just describing that, saying that question, asking that question, is the first one is, are we taking a transactional approach or a transformational approach? So let's use business, because it's easy. If you're in an NGO, of course, we want to transform people's lives and society, et cetera. But let's say you're a hardcore business person, and you're looking at profit and loss, right? And that's what motivates you. And you've got shareholders, perhaps, that are pushing you from behind. At the end of the day, if you're using people in a transactional way, at some point you chew them up and you toss them out. And so I think eventually, in this day and age, I think eventually there are so many options that talented people have, that they will leave your business and that they will go to another business. So I think you're at risk of retaining really great talent if you treat them in a transactional way. If you are partnering with your team in a transformational way, so that you are, you show empathy and you're caring about their lives, and also in helping them to produce the very best outcomes, the best performance, grow their capabilities and capacities in new and different ways, and provide a work environment that they enjoy. And even if they don't enjoy that, you're all for one for all, working as a team together, I think you've got a better chance at running a sustainable business that produces the kinds of financial and other outcomes and goals that you are setting.
So ultimately, that will pay dividends.
I think
that
so.
Time invested.
Sometimes it's also you go a little slower to go fast, and it's the old you need to go together, and so I think so.
Can you share a time when you succeeded, but also a time when you failed as a leader in your work with Transformational Business Network Alliance, but not the examples in themselves, but the lessons you extracted would be valuable, I think, for our audience?
So I'll give an example, but I'm going to change it just a tad. So Transformational Business Network, TBN Alliance, we're only about 6-7 months old. So TBN has been around a long time, but TBN was a network of entrepreneurs and impact investors and capacity builders and intermediaries that supports purpose-driven businesses in emerging and frontier markets around the world. But it was very autonomous and independent, and that TBN has now partnered with Belmont University to create an alliance. So we're still building the alliance. So we're in a very formational position right now. So that's not, I think the example I'd like to choose to share is one of a previous
That'll be great.
enterprise. It was called Asia P3 Hub. And it was I lived in Asia for many years, and it was Singapore-based incubation hub. But we didn't incubate companies; we incubated multi-sector partnerships. People, public, private were the 3 Ps. Asia P3 Hub, and Asia P3 Hub was a social enterprise-inspired but it was a nonprofit, and we were hosted by a larger organization, an NGO, and we built it in 3 years' time, and we were quite successful. We brokered 25 multi-sector partnerships over that time, starting from scratch. It was an amazing experience. My team was wonderful, but at the end of the day, we had to suspend operations after 3 years for a number of reasons, which was devastating to me as the leader. And we designed it and built it, and blood, sweat, and tears, and all of that. And so that was heartbreaking, and I learned a lot of lessons about what it means to be an entrepreneur, even an entrepreneur in a non-for-profit setting. But the success of that was a merger with TBN Asia, which is where I was introduced to the whole idea of supporting other purpose-driven businesses that were for-profit purpose-driven businesses, and how could I then come alongside and perhaps provide meaningful support as a supporter of them rather than to try and do my own thing. So heartbreaking to actually, have a baby and a business baby, sorry, just to be clear, and have it not work out. But the lessons I learned from that really helped me to empathize and understand better the challenges of other entrepreneurs so that I could come and hopefully provide more meaningful and helpful support to them. Yeah. So nothing's wasted, I guess, is the point. Whether it's failures or successes, and years and decades for some of us that we've been at it for a while, and I can look back and see lots of successes, but I can see lots of failures or things I wish I would have done differently. But what I'm struck by is nothing's wasted, and all of that bears fruit now in the work that I'm doing.
That's an amazing perspective and a positive one. Making changes is hard. It's tough, especially in social impact work. What do you see as the biggest hurdles leaders face when they try to make changes? And how can they overcome them to make their places, their organizations, communities a better place?
I'm a huge proponent of collaboration and partnership. And I know we talk about that all the time. Oh, yes, we must partner, we must collaborate. But at the end of the day, it's really, really hard. Because at the end of the day, most of us want our own way, or we think we know what's right.
Our vision.
Our vision, yeah. And that's a huge driver for us. And I get that. But from my experience, and we just talked about, for better, for worse, failures and successes, I have definitely been more successful when I work with others on a team in some kind of a partnership or collaborative approach. There's always a better idea out there, or someone may have an idea and it sparks a new idea from me, or my neighbor over here, or my partner over there. So I'm a total proponent of together we're stronger. And so I think if we can pool our unique resources and strengths and networks and expertise in creative ways, that we can create something and build something as leaders that we couldn't do solely on our own. So I'm a total proponent of finding ways to collaborate through thick and thin with others that are not like ourselves. And there is that iron
friction
sharpens iron.
there.
Yes, definitely. But that's where innovation comes from. That's where new ideas spark. I think that's where opportunities come from. Yeah.
But how do you mitigate the fear that the other person's opinion or plan or vision will not align, and it will just cause friction and waste time and resources?
So there may be a bit of, wastage. I don't know. But actually, I see it as an investment instead of waste. I see it as an investment in a successful outcome. So we start with making sure, I think at the end of the day, making sure that the core, that we're agreeing on the core thing that we want to do. So that we're agreeing, the alignment in the goal, the objective, the thing. I used to have a boss, and he used to say, "What's the thing?" And you nail that thing, and you all agree on the thing. Now, how you're going to get from where you are to there, that's that's riding a wild horse sometimes, definitely. And you get knocked off, but then you climb back on, and you just keep at it. But I think that the focus has got to be on that North Star. This is what we're heading for. We want to get there together, and at some point, hopefully in a relatively efficient way, you do get there. But there is friction, and there is disagreement, and there are going to be times where you have to say, "I actually think maybe my idea is better, but you know what? Let's go with yours." And it may or may not work. So I think there's a lot of give and take. Yeah.
Interesting. Last question. How do you know when you need to pack everything and just leave a process like that? Because when you are a positive person, and I have the feeling that you are a positive person, you keep seeing the good thing, the positive in the others.
Yes.
But at some point, I think sometimes we need to pack and leave.
So you're exactly right, and I've overstayed sometimes. I've learned that lesson as well. Those are some of my failure lessons. But I would say you need someone that can be your check and balance. So for me, what I learned is that I can be over optimistic to a point where it's like, just stop. It's time to stop now, because there's a point of diminishing returns, and so it's like I would regularly go beyond the point of diminishing returns, right? And it's like, okay, I need someone to say, Christy, here you are. Is this working out? No, then it's time to cut your losses. I'm sorry, and stop. And so when when I had, so I've learned to ask for help because I know that is not a strength of mine. So I ask for help. You know, it's like, okay, Puyo, you're going to be my check and balance. Tell me if you see me consistently pushing past that point of diminishing returns, and this is just not, there's no return here, then it's like, let's call it. And I give you permission to tell me that. Right. And so that's what I think that's just maturity, perhaps. I wish I would have known that when I was younger, and had the courage to have someone like that to say, stop. Yeah. Yeah.
I think maturity and also humility, because we need to ask and we need to accept the fact that we are not, we don't know everything. And I think an external voice can help.
Actually, I would love to have you as my check and balance again someday. Actually, that's a really, really good point. Yeah, humility. I don't think of myself as necessarily possessing a lot of humility, but I think you have to have the courage to step down, you know. And so perhaps, yeah, humility is learned from that.
Christy, thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Pleasure was mine. Thank you, Puyo. Thanks.